My name is American Joe Miedusiewski. I am the Senior Government Affairs Director at Old Line Government Affairs. And for this edition of Online with Old Line, we're delighted to have and to introduce to you Delegate Charles Otto. Delegate Otto represents District 38 of Somerset and Worcester counties in Maryland. And I have to say, that's quite a swath of real estate for a legislative district, even being a third of the district. I mean, I'm sure you rack up a lot of mileage there.
Yeah,
Delegate,
Berlin to Chrisfield.
Delegate Otto is also the deputy minority leader, and he's a member of the Environment and Transportation Committee. And when we're not in the COVID situation, I spend a lot of time in that committee, and we talk about a lot of environmental stuff. And of course, in your other profession than being a legislator, we do have some common interests that we talk about, cultural products and things like that. So let's get started, though. The first thing is, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and the district that you represent, so that the folks tuning in get a flavor for who you are and where you're from.
Well, I'm a native of Somerset County. I'm living in the house that I grew up in currently, and haven't changed my address, but for 3 years in college at Virginia Tech. And I don't know that counts unless certain people want to vote on college campuses, but got a degree in animal science, and I've worked actually in the agronomy field for most of my career, and certified crop advisor. I still farm the family farm. I don't have any rented land now. We did have poultry until I got into politics and found out I'm not married and don't have any family living at home. So I didn't know when I was going to be home, and animals need attention. So
that's a full plate.
Yeah.
Even without a family, that's a full
So,
plate.
And I'm a fertilizer salesman and seed and full thing there.
Well, let me ask you a question. The southern part of your district is the northern part of Virginia there, right?
Yeah.
Right up against Virginia.
Yeah, I have Smith Island and Virginia, right to the Virginia line.
Right. Do you notice any influence, or are you feeling any influence? I know we're talking about rural areas, but do you feel any influence from Virginia on any of the decisions that you make, or any, as a or from the population,
I would say so in some things. In the past years, Virginia has been more of science-based in doing things. Of course, I'm partial to Virginia Tech's research and Virginia college's information compared to the politicized stuff that comes from Maryland, but not so much lately. I mean, we have a good working relationship. I mean, I've had our intervene to try to encourage our DNR to go do ice breaking to Tangier and things like that. And we work back and forth in those regards. Regulatory wise, they're stretched out on a larger geographical area than we are. And the two counties of Virginia that are on the Eastern Shore are more orphans than the 9 counties we have in Maryland. So
I understand. Listen, you're a 10-year veteran now, and time flies. I know that. 10-year veteran of the Maryland Legislature. Think for a little and give us your opinion. What's been the biggest accomplishment thus far in your legislative career? What would you hold up?
I guess the most public was getting golf carts in Chrisfield in the city limits, but I don't know that that's the greatest accomplishment. I think one of the things I take pride in, we have a new library in Chrisfield, and as well as in Berlin, and we had worked with actually folks from the Prince George's County delegation in changing the formula on state aid to building libraries. Because the matching funds for the locals became such an obstacle for them to achieve, and that was changed in my first term, I believe. And I think that's probably made more impact on a lot of things to provide these facilities to, especially when we see the internet or digital age that we have to deal with now and access to it. I think that was one of the better things that we accomplished.
Mhm. I was thinking the other day when you're talking about the remoteness of some of the districts and the constituents in those districts, and you and I had a conversation about till this day running power, electricity, just getting
Mm-hmm.
electricity into some new shed or a building or something you might put out there. But given the dependence now on digital technology and the occurrence of this COVID pandemic, are you hearing from constituents that they're having difficulty? You and I talked about the last mile for electricity,
Yeah.
but what about the digital
Well,
access?
that's been more of a challenge, and I've been hearing about it since I took office and knew about it.
Mhm.
Quite frankly, I really don't want it at home if I can help it. But the who you used to represent, Chop Tank Electric, has got a great initiative now to bring that, like they did the electric power to the rural areas, to bring the fiber optics and the broadband capabilities to it. I've
Mhm.
seen it personally, and that my phone service has gone to pot. I'm on AT&T
Oh,
because
my.
that was a better service than Verizon,
Yeah.
and I could used to be able to get phone calls in my house, but now I got to be in a certain spot to even get it. And you can see when they put the tablets up and fill up the system. There is a challenge that we just can't get, and apparently there is a challenge in our urban areas as well, where the service is and where it's not. So that's a big issue that we worked on hard. I mean, I can't cite specific legislation on it to say that was my legislative accomplishment, but
Mhm.
some of the money that $300 million that's going into broadband in the state of Maryland this year is important. And
Yeah, we were hearing a lot about 5G as well, and I know that Maryland does not have it yet, and there wasn't much of a push this year to implement it. But I'm just wondering, when they're talking about these other things down the road, there are certain areas, just as you've well described, that we need the basics before we can even get into the super available, technology. So I just wondering how you were handling it down there, particularly during this time of everybody hunkering down.
well, a few weeks ago we had actually Tyler Patton with Maryland Broadband had organized at a roundtable with some of the providers in our Eastern Shore counties and this, that, and the other. And I think we got a multitude of people that have to be part of the puzzle to put it together. It's not just going to be the Chop Tank initiative. They have some infrastructure that certainly can be used, and you have some others that have some uh, wireless connections to a closer location that can improve the service.
Mhm. Well, let's just for a second talk about face-to-face communication without the electronics. I mean, as I said earlier, you got a pretty big swath of real estate there in your district. How easily or difficult have you found it over the years of just getting out to your constituents and pressing the flesh, if you will?
Well, this year has been the most challenging. I mean, I participate in all the Christmas parades in each little town and village, and pass out candy. And we have an active communities here still, much
Mhm.
as you were aware in the city where you grew up. You had communities that worked together and had activities and things. And that's been an important part that we was taken away from us this year, really. I
Yeah.
mean, you couldn't fill it in with a Zoom meeting or this, that, and the other, and then people, and then with the challenges of emails and this, that, and the other, it's been a challenge thing, but things are opening up now. I have several activities. we have a skipjack museum and chants
Mhm.
going into Deal Island, opening up on Saturday,
Good.
tomorrow. So
Mhm.
I would encourage people to come down and visit it. It's pretty cheap and a good learning experience.
I
Most of
have
it
some,
is the
I have
gas.
I have some friends on Deal Island. I'll mention it to them.
Yeah, please do.
That's good. That's good. Well, let me also just check in with you on your position. I mean, you're a member of the Republican Party. You're the deputy minority whip. You know, dealing in Maryland with such a huge majority with Democrats. What what is your impression about the ability for the minority side to get meaningful legislation that they're interested in? I mean, how comfortable are you feeling about getting your fair share?
Well, this year was a little more challenging, I thought. I thought things became more partisan, and we have a progressive left movement taking over the Democratic Party that are just nuts as far as I'm concerned. And they just think everything ought to go into the trains and the hole in Washington, D.C., and nobody pays a bill and nobody ever gets evicted and things like that. So that's a challenge. And then they look at you like you have three heads when you object to what they're proposing. Um, Relationships do matter, and telling the truth. I mean, the integrity is the only thing I have up there, and they know I'm not lying to them when I speak. I may not tell them all I know sometimes, but so, that's the way it is. And um, uh, we have good people, educated people, and I think they're misled sometimes by who's providing the information, who they're listening to. So that's what I hope to provide. I thought that's what I've tried to bring to the table, some integrity to the information and ask pertinent questions of those that are trying to spew some mistruths. So
Yeah. Before we wrap up, because this is just a short interview to introduce you to some of our people, how did you find the new restrictions during the legislature? I mean, did you feel hampered in any way, or were you able to do what you wanted to do with a lot, with the restrictions that they put in place in the building?
well, we found a few issues with things of not having the opportunity to see the board and how people voted in a fair
Yeah.
opportunity, and that was worked on by the speaker's staff and all that, and that was improved.
Mhm.
It is a challenge to go to a phone booth in the annex to speak, and
Yeah.
you got to prepare ahead.
Right.
Uh, rather than standing up and trying to be recognized and
Mhm.
speak. That's another challenge. And then you couldn't see who you were speaking to or who was answering your question. So there was some logistical problems with that.
Mhm.
Some of it was in the voting. It was slow, and we were not pushing a button. We were hitting a screen, and sometimes it would lock up and the vote didn't get counted. So there was some challenges, but overall, I think they did well to try to handle it. I'll give kudos to the speaker's office of trying to accommodate those circumstances, and when things arose, they tried to fix them.
I tend to agree with you. I have relatively few concerns or complaints. I mean, given the massive, taking care of
Mhm.
188 legislators, the massive undertaking of what that was to get it to move, I think it functioned fairly smoothly. I mean, as you say, it was a glitch here and a glitch there, but whoever decided on the final project or the outcome, I think they had it. I think they had it well planned. But before we wrap things up, though, I just ask you one more thing. What's the one unique thing or fun fact about yourself that you'd like to share with people?
That, I don't know what to say to that. I enjoy farming and gardening. I respect the land, and I'm a native Marylander, even though when I have other legislatures ask me, where are you from? And they tell me they're from Jersey.
Mm.
So I know that happened in one time in particular. But I said, I've been born and raised here, and I just, we're not ashamed to be from Somerset County. And if we haven't had it in 370 years, we don't need it now. So I'm not committed to some strange thing that the king thinks he can offer me. So we'll go from there.
I hear you. I hear you. I kind of feel your pain sometime with the changes, but you have to roll with the punches. And my wife's people are from Talbot County, and they were here from they've been here well over 200
Right.
and some years. They had a big farm there and everything, and we always had a great time going down and visiting and everything. So you're in a beautiful area. You have a beautiful district, and I wish you well. So, Delegate Otto, thank you for
Hey,
taking the
let
time.
me remind you, the Taw's clam bake is
Yes.
in October this year. So
Yep. Yep.
plan to come down.
We usually go and have a good time. We're looking forward to it. And we look forward to having more opportunities to work with you also, Delegate.
Absolutely.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Stay safe. Be well.
All right. Give Brett my regards.
I will. Thank you.